All right. Let's go ahead and call this meeting to order on May 23rd, 2023, 6 p.m. Please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Will the clerk please take the roll?
Councilmember Richardson.
Present.
Councilmember Crossman.
Here.
Councilmember Smith. Here. Councilmember Hess. Here. Councilmember Brooks. Here. Councilmember Kaminsky. Here. Mayor DePinto.
Here. Moving on to item number 2, agenda approval. Councilmember Smith.
Move to approve.
Second. Second by Councilmember Hess. Is there any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed say nay. Motion carries. Moving on to item 3, special presentations. There's none scheduled. Moving to item number 4, public comment. Thank you for everyone who's already filled out a public comment form. If you still wish, if you haven't, they're right outside the door. We can get you one. Just raise your hand if you want to speak. Other than that, it's 3 minutes a person. I'll give you a quick warning. Just lift up the card here at 30 seconds, and then I'll ask you to wrap up when that 3 minutes is up. So starting off with Kimberly Johnson, please state your name for the record. And I know I'm standing here right now, but please state it again and go ahead and step to the podium and say what you have to say.
Okay. My name is Kim Johnston, and I'm here to introduce my group. I am owner and founder of Adventure Friends. We are a new youth group in the area. We are family organized. We deal with kids with special needs. We work closely with the WIDE program, which, if you do not know, it's with Catholic Community Services. And, we hand out resources to our families, and we never done this before. Okay, so we hand out resources to our families that need them, because a lot of low-income families generally have special needs kids, just in general. We also take them camping, hiking. We try to bring the bonding back together. We also do crisis care with them. We're advocates for the school district, that type of thing. If you guys have any questions, I'm going to place some of my cards out there. You guys feel free to contact me. Do you have any questions?
Thank you very much. John Reno.
Howdy. I'm calling, or getting this to basically have a statement to make right now. My name is John Reno. I'm a husband and father, 20-year retired military veteran, business owner, Christ follower, Jesus calls to protect all children. I want to notify the city that I found that you to be in violation of city codes as well as Washington state laws and allowing businesses to operate outside their legal authority. You have approved an event on June 10th. The sole proprietor to hire subcontractors and allow vendors and to have employees. Anyone can look up the UBI number 604. This is public record, by the way, 604-412-134, as to see this person is not legally able to operate under the scope to the work that they are performing. As a business owner, I'm required to follow the laws of our lands. And I expect that our local government is requiring that these laws be followed equally for everyone. So I understand that you have been allowing this person to illegally operate in our city for some time, and I will be requesting a public records verification in writing to submit by attorney, my legal counsel, and suggest that the city of Yelm cease and desist this event immediately. If you have any questions, I'll be more than happy to talk to you right now about it.
You say they're not legally able to operate.
Yes, sir.
How would the city follow up with that? Is
So-
like that?
So there's a simple way, I believe, that the city has processes in play, right? The Parks and Rec, along with the City Planning Commission. All right, so they go in and say, hey, our contractor or our company name is Renovate Northwest. So if you were to hire me as a contractor to come do work on your house per se, If you went into the LNI's website and found out, hey, Renovate Northwest is a licensed general contractor, they have an active license, and they also have not just a license, but you can elaborate to that further and say, hey, this person is not a sole proprietor. So there's 3 tiers to the state requirement for having a legal business license. When you are a vendor, when you are a contractor, when you are providing a service where you have employees, you pay subcontractors, you pay anyone, you cannot operate as a sole proprietor in the state. You are illegally operating, and you could be subsequently fined. And that's the reason why I found this to be a little fishy from the get-go, and immediately called LNI and immediately found out that this person is illegally operating as a sole proprietor. This person is paying anyone. It's illegal. She's not a nonprofit. Her business license specifically states that it's her own entity, her own person, and that's it. She can't have subcontractors. She can't pay employees, because she has to have LNI and ETSD with risk factors. And the city could be essentially held liable for any risk of injury, or who's fitting the bill. You know, who's fitting the bill if this event takes place and the city is now held liable for somebody tripping and falling. She doesn't have what they call a bond with an insurance that goes, it essentially covers a person that is injured and the risk factor there, and she has her own insurance that covers this. So I don't understand how we as a group of people don't understand the basic confines of, if I'm a business owner and I'm operating underneath the premise of, hey, I'm going to go do your roof, but I'm not going to do your roof by myself. I'm going to have employees.
Could you please, is that sufficient to answer your question, Councilmember Crossman?
Yeah.
All right, I'm sorry.
Did you have another question?
No, I would just, you, Mr. Mayor, follow up with LNI maybe tomorrow and make sure that.
So we have been doing this whole time. Why do you want to go ahead and?
Yeah, our business analyst has been kind of diving into this whole thing and how it's being ran and making sure that everybody has the appropriate licenses and whatnot. But I can talk to you after this is well and get more specifics from you. Or you said you're going to do a public disclosure request as well.
Yeah, I don't understand how you guys haven't, you've looked at this up yourself, so you should.
I didn't look it up myself.
Oh, so who looked it up?
We have an analyst that does that.
So the analyst, who looked it up?
The analyst?
The analyst, who's the analyst?
Her name is Kim.
Okay, so Kim, you can Google search any business right now and find that they have a license. That doesn't mean that she's carrying this, the person is set as a sole proprietor or an S Corp or an LLC to set that license. So again, where's the checks and balances here in the military? We had a thing called trust but verify. Where's the verification?
John Hoffman.
My name is John Hoffman. I'm the senior pastor of Beatonville Baptist Church. I felt compelled to come this evening simply because my soul is troubled by this upcoming event. I have remotely watched some of the previous council meetings regarding the subject and have been troubled by some things that I have heard from those who support the drag show. For example, I've heard it said many times, love is love, or we are not here to discuss religion. But I have also heard the Bible being misquoted in an attempt to defend this event, as was the case in the April 11th meeting, when a man stood at this podium and said that the Bible says that it isn't our business to judge anybody. Because of these things, I felt compelled to come before you today, and as it were, to be the very mouthpiece of God. And so, friends, out of true love, out of a love that cares for your very souls and is terrified at the thoughts of those of you in this room who are not born-again Christians having to one day stand for a perfectly holy and infinitely just God for judgment, I now say these things that I must, because love warns those who are in danger of the danger that is to come. And so, friends, the Bible is clear. There is a standard of truth. There is a standard in this world for morality. Objective moral values do exist. Right is right, wrong is wrong. A man is a man, a woman is a woman. And things like homosexuality and men parading around dressed in provocative women's clothing while pretending to be women is sexually immoral and wrong in the sight of a holy God. There is no escaping these truths. And as the Bible also says, God's laws, his very standard of morality, is written in every one of your hearts. And so deep down, you all know that what I am saying is true, and therefore you are without excuse. But the biggest concern this evening is the protection and the stripping away of the innocence of children. The Bible calls us to be innocent from evil. And as adults, it is our responsibility from God to protect that innocence. The organizer of this event will surely have the greatest fault, but you, council members, if it is within your power to do something, then it is your responsibility before God to do something to protect these children. At a minimum, I would urge you to force the event to change the age requirements for attendance. Luke 17:2 warns that ultimately it would be better for someone if a millstone were hung around his neck and he were cast into the sea than that he should cause a little one to stumble. God cares about the innocence of children, and he will hold anyone accountable who brings harm to them. Allowing them to be subjected to perversion and sexual immorality, whether it be gay or straight, is an egregious offense to God. To those in that community who are enslaved to this sin, I beg you to come to Christ. He can set you free. He is the truth, the way, and the life, and there is no one in the history of this world who has shown what true love is more than he who was willing to die for sinners in order to save them from eternity in hell. Christ is willing to save you. Turn from your sins and turn to God for forgiveness. Thank you.
Councilmember Crossman.
Thanks, sir. Question.
Yes, sir.
You said Edenville Baptist Church?
Yes.
Okay. I'm not familiar with it. What brought you down to our little town?
Yeah, so this is my backyard, basically, right? I mean, you're.
Extended backyard.
Sorry?
Extended backyard.
Extended backyard, yeah. But I mean, you're 30 minutes away. This is troubling to me. And, you know, I've been hearing concerns from people that I know, you know, in the community. Like I said, I was watching some of the previous council meetings, and I've heard the Bible misquoted. I've heard the Bible used to defend the event and misrepresentations of who God is and what he cares about and what he has described in his word. So I felt compelled to come here and to set things straight. Thank you. That's right.
Thank you.
All right, we have one more speaker, Ryan Wolski.
My name is Ryan Olsky, and I represent a group called We the People Against Communism. I have a couple questions and concerns regarding the all-age drag show happening on June 10th, 2023. What adults do behind closed doors is only to be judged by God, but once children are involved, it can potentially become child endangerment. Children are faced with enough sexual exploitation through pornographic images in school and public libraries, YouTube Kids, and the Washington State Sex Ed referendum. City Council, I have a couple questions for you. Can you guarantee that all performers will not accept any type of payment from the audience? City Council, can you guarantee that no child will be performing or accepting any type of payment? Does City Council have plans on attending to confirm that nothing sexual will happen? And what is City Council's version of rated G, and what is LaDonna's version of rated G? Is City Council willing to step down from your position in the event that the show does become sexually explicit in any way, as you guys have guaranteed that it will not be sexual? Will City Council have enough law enforcement present in the event that the show does become sexual? City Council, I understand that you want to be inclusive, but there are other means of inclusivity, and adult entertainment is not one of them. 18 and plus gets rid of us. Thank you.
All right, is there anyone else that wishes to speak? All right, moving
Have
on.
any members online that wish to speak?
All right, going once, twice, moving on. All right, we do have, moving on to number 5, the consent agenda, the May 2nd, 2023 study session minutes and the May 9th, 2023 regular meeting minutes. Councilmember Hess.
I move that we approve the consent agenda.
Is there a second? Second by Councilmember Kaminsky. Is there any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed say nay. Motion carries. Moving on to new business, item 6, we have an approval to purchase a wind sculpture. Is that you, Kathy?
That's me. Thank you, Mayor. So I just wanted to just remind council, as you know, the Arts Commission came before you at the study session in March, asked to purchase a wind sculpture. Council wanted them to do some more research and see if they could find someone closer, a local artist. So they went back out, they searched for artists in Washington State. They found 2. One of them came back with a quote that started at $10,000 to even do anything. And the other person, after multiple attempts, did not return any, or even return their messages or respond to their emails. So they came back again on May 2nd and updated you with all of the information. So, I mean, tonight we're just asking, the Arts Commission is asking for a motion to approve the original purchase, the original wind sculpture, which was the Ponderosa wind sculpture.
Discussion? Councilmember Hess.
I mean, we approve the purchase of the Ponderosa wind sculpture from Free Gallery to be placed at the trailhead on Yelm Avenue in the amount of $4,350 plus tax and shipping.
Second.
Second by Councilmember Richardson. Is there any further discussion? Councilmember Crossman.
Since I was absent, what the trailhead is that on Rockstar's trailhead?
Yes, right on Yelm Avenue, right across from the bank.
Yeah, that's, yeah.
And that purchase has been, or the location was reviewed with the Public Works Department, and they've okayed the installation in that location.
Is there any further discussion? So motion second to approve the purchase of a wind sculpture. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed say nay.
Nay.
Motion carries 5-1. All right, moving on, new business B. We have a supplemental agreement number 5 to the professional services agreement Skillings Incorporated Construction Management Services for an off-leash dog park phase 2. Brett, is this you or?
This is me. Good evening, everybody. Tonight I'm bringing to you supplemental agreement number 5 with Skillings Inc. for the construction contract administration for phase 2 of the off-leash dog park in the not to exceed amount of $73,748. This project is in this year's budget under the municipal building fund. We have 2 grants totaling $575,440. This contract will allow us to meet all federal grant requirements and inspections during construction that we need to abide by. In your packet, you'll find a scope of work and cost computations for all aspects of construction management. Council Member Hess, you asked earlier today about the time frame on construction, and in the contract they have a 91 calendar day schedule for completion. Anybody have any questions?
Councilmember Smith.
I move motion to authorize Mayor Pinto to sign supplemental agreement number 5 to the professional services agreement with Skillings Inc. in the not to exceed amount of $73,748 for construction management services for the phase 2 construction of the off-leash dog park.
Second by Councilmember Crossman. Is there any further discussion? All right, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed say nay. Motion carries 5-1. Moving on to new business item C, resolution number 636, vacating the utility easement burdening the property located at 106 West Yelm Avenue. Cody. There you go.
It's official now. So in front of you, this is the first one I've done of these, is a vacation of easement. What happened on this property is this was one of the first step tanks ever put in Yelm in the 1990s. When the easement was placed, so an easement is placed to give the city authorization to access and do stuff with the equipment we put in there. Well, it was a blanket easement over the entire property. So what ended up happening now that CarStar's moving forward and wanting to build on that property, we need to vacate the easement so they're not restrained by that step tank easement. They'll redo an easement when they put a new step tank in for the new construction. I'll be happy to answer any questions if you have any.
Any questions? Councilmember Hess looks like he might have one.
This is the property that's behind CarStar.
Correct. Or to the left of, depending on what direction you're driving, or to the right of.
The one that's on the other side of the.
The trail, on the other side of the trail, yes.
Councilmember Crossman, did you still have a question?
I was just going to make a motion.
Anyone else have any questions? Councilmember Crossman.
Move to approve resolution number 636.
Is there a second?
Second.
A second by Councilmember Kaminsky. Have any further discussion? All right, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed say nay. Motion carries. All right, thank you, Cody. Moving on to 6D, ordinance number 1095, update Title 18 Unified Development Code and Title 5 Business Licenses and Regulations.
Thank you. Thank you all. Got a few items on the agenda tonight. I also need to amend the subject line to say that it also would be amending Title 13. So it's 5, 13, and 18. And that is in the ordinance correctly, even though it's subject line of the staff reports. These are a series of code changes that we have worked on in-house. We've got a lot of other code changes we want to do over time. So we're just kind of like biting off what we can chew little bits at a time based on either what's sort of low-hanging fruit and it's easy to do, or based on whether we're required to do it. And in at least one case tonight, one of these is a requirement. This entire planning staff worked on these together. And we've already gone through a hearing with the Planning Commission. Planning Commission has recommended adoption of these. So I will just quickly summarize. There's 5 different ones that we're looking at. The first one is based on legislation that was passed in April, I believe, of 2020. And it's amending the Growth Management Act, and it requires cities who plan under the Growth Management Act, of which we are one. It requires us to add some definitions to our development code regarding certain types of housing. And it also requires us to allow those types of housing in certain kinds of zones. So there are 4 different types of housing. One is permanent supportive housing. The transitional housing is the other, indoor emergency housing, and indoor emergency shelters. And I do have definitions of those. I'd be happy to read them out if you want me to. Okay. Here we go. Bear with me while I sort through this. It's a pretty big packet, so.
Do you want the whole thing right now or the executive summary?
It's I'm most interested in the permanent supportive housing and the transitional housing, what those definitions are, and if possible, an example of each one.
Did you hear that, Gary?
I did hear that. I'm not sure I'll be able to give you a good example of each one because a lot of these, we haven't done, but I'll take my best shot at it. And I'll just go on in alphabetical order. Emergency housing, some of them I think will be self-explanatory though.
Okay. No, I know.
Emergency housing means temporary secure accommodations for individuals or families who are homeless or at imminent risk of becoming homeless that is intended to address the basic health, food, clothing, and personal hygienes or individuals or families. Emergency housing may or may not require occupants to enter into a lease or occupancy agreement. Emergency shelter means a facility that provides a temporary shelter for individuals or families who are currently homeless. Emergency shelters may not require occupants to enter into a lease or occupancy agreement. Emergency shelter facilities may include day and warming centers that do not provide overnight accommodations. So obviously, the emergency shelter is something that's meant to be, very much a temporary emergency to try to get people off the street. It's not intended to be a long-term agreement. We won't enter into a lease. The emergency housing would be something, I guess, a little bit more beyond that. I'm thinking of efforts that say the city of Olympia has built tiny home communities that get people that are homeless off the streets, but they also are subject to, I don't know if it's a lease, but they are certainly subject to signing agreements to agree to, for example, not have alcohol on the premises or other things that might be an issue. Okay, so let me find permanent supportive housing. I know that's one you're. There we go. Permanent supportive housing is subsidized lease housing with no limit on length of stay that prioritizes people who need comprehensive support services to retain tenancy and utilizes admissions practices designed to lower barriers to entry than would be typical for other subsidized or unsubsidized rental housing, especially related to rental history, criminal history, and personal behaviors. Permanent supportive housing is paired with on-site or off-site voluntary services designed to support a person living with a complex and disabling behavioral health or physical health condition who was experiencing homelessness or was at imminent risk of homelessness prior to moving into housing to retain their housing and be a successful tenement and housing arrangement. That's a little confusing right there. I better double check the writing of that. But so I've been asking around for examples of this, and there's no one type of permanent supportive housing. So the county was at the Regional Housing Council's technical team meeting asking around about this. And the example I was given, one type of example, it would be veterans housing that is supported, low income, that is also provided services by a volunteer group like Catholic Community Services. So it's long-term housing. It's intended to be affordable for low income or people who are at risk or who have behavioral health problems that are receiving ongoing volunteer support. So that's permanent supportive housing. We had this discussion about Section 8 at one time. It's not Section 8, so that's a different thing. And then the very last one, this printing on two sides of the page makes sense in a lot of ways, but not in others because I get confused. Here we go. Transitional housing means a project that provides housing and supportive services to homeless persons or families for up to 2 years. And that has as its purpose facilitating the movement of homeless persons and families into independent living. So an example of that, and again, I'm not a homelessness expert. We've been, we're land use planners that are catching up with some issues that are emerging through the Growth Management Act. But an example of that, I think, might be Lacey and Tumwater have both purchased hotels that they are using to relocate like homeless encampments into a much, safer and not permanent, but it's a safer environment to sort of help them transition into a longer term living arrangement. So those are mandated. We are mandated by state law to provide for those. We cannot prevent them from being located in the city. And if I could get back to my staff report here, there are some parameters though. So for permanent supportive and transitional housing, we're required to allow them in all zones that allow either residential units or hotels. So for that, it actually covers pretty much every zoning district we have. And I just wanted to make sure that you understand that in the packet that you got, I only provided an example for each of those types of zones. So I didn't give you a packet this thick that would cover our entire zoning code. It just shows like in the residential one, these two things are allowed: permanent supportive housing and transitional housing, or in the commercial, the same. For The emergency housing or emergency shelters, they are required just in zones that allow hotels. So those would be commercial zones. So we have done that. We've changed both our residential and commercial zones to allow for these. We are allowed to condition them in a way. So we're allowing them as a special use. And basically we have established siting criteria for them. And it's similar to other kinds of, and it's just so that there will be some spacing between the different kinds of, or between the uses. And so we created a new chapter, 1871, emergency housing, shelters, permanent supportive housing, and transitional housing. And it's essentially establishing criteria that they cannot be located closer than 660 feet from one another, or from other public facilities or schools or teen centers. It's not really a huge restriction. That's 2 football fields is what we're talking about. Now, this is optional. The city does not have to place these restrictions on there. I went ahead and included them because that is kind of the most the city can do. And it's up to you to decide whether you want to have siting criteria. Yes.
I'm just curious on the whole, in particular, when you said the permanent supportive housing, the example you gave was veterans. Why are we treating veterans for veteran housing of saying you can't be within 660 feet of the following things? I can understand if we want to, go through and say if it's going to be for the criminal, somebody who's being released from jail, yes, we can do something like that. But to do a blanket, I'm not sure that's the appropriate way to go about doing it.
Well, it's certainly the council's decision, but if you read the definition, it includes all kinds of groups of people. I mean, it's not exclusive. I use that as an example.
No. And as I said, I think doing the blanket of 660 is wrong. We should maybe categorize and say which ones are which. Because, I mean, as I say, I'm looking, you look at this and it's like going, if we all of a sudden have somebody who wants to set up something for veterans and the location happens to be close to a daycare because the daycares can be set up in a residential house or any space, you're now telling veterans who served, who need assistance, you're a criminal. You're a sex offender. You are the equivalent of a drug user and all these other things. And that's, to me, I will tell you, I take offense to that. I take offense to that you want to treat veterans like that, and that you want to treat other people who are honest, hardworking individuals who are down on their luck. As I say, I think I appreciate the 660 feet, but maybe we should make sure we're defining which ones are 660 feet and which ones can be placed anywhere. That I think is important.
We can certainly do that. I'm not sure what that exercise looks like, but I mean, it's certainly not intended to penalize anyone. We're trying to come up with some housing options to provide assistance to people, but I understand.
Councilor Yaminsky, then Crossman. Did you still have a question? Or was that Councilor Brooks? Excuse me, sorry. Councilor Brooks, then Crossman.
Okay. I would like to know for the new chapter that you are suggesting, why is it that churches, cemeteries, and other religious facilities or institutions were included in this?
I will tell you, we just basically used similar criteria that we have for other citing of other kinds of businesses. And once again, I almost didn't include it at all, but I know that the local governments do have at least some ability to condition how these things are approved. So I figured it's better to start with the most restrictive so you know what your options are, and then you can pare your way down if you want to.
Okay.
Councilor Crossman.
What zones are hotels allowed in?
All commercial.
All C1, 2, and 3. Okay.
Councilor Richardson?
So just so we can understand too, so this is about the 2021 Washington legislature that passed House Bill 1220, right?
Yes.
So this is in response to that, we're trying to get the city up to that legislature that was passed?
Yes. Yeah, and it's a requirement that we adopt these codes.
It's a requirement.
Yeah, it's a state requirement.
We can go a little bit further. It sounds like in some areas, but we have to pass some sort of RCW relating to this. Is this time sensitive? Whereas we have to have it passed by a certain time?
Well, it's supposed to be passed about a year ago, but that doesn't mean it's necessarily time sensitive. I mean, as long as we're moving toward getting it done, if there are amendments or changes that you guys want to see, we can certainly do that.
I'm just kind of wondering if council wants to have the Public Services Committee look at it again and bring it back to council right after that. Is that going to be an issue for staff? Cody, Gary, looking at you too.
It's fine. You know, I was thinking maybe one thing that I don't see these just rushing right in. So it might be possible to adopt all the changes except the proposed new chapter, which is separate. It's not embedded in all of those codes. The citing criteria is its own chapter. So we could adopt those changes and then just come back and go back and work on the chapter and bring that.
That's Councilor Crossman.
I read my packet, I listened to planning commission, I listened to this. I don't agree with a lot of what the state legislature is doing, but we have no choice. So I move that we approve ordinance number 1095.
As is. Councilman Rivas.
As is.
For a second to be done. Is there a second to this motion? Councilor Richardson, is that a second? All right, is there discussion? Councilor Hess.
I'd like to make an amendment to that, and the amendment to be that we approve everything except for chapter 18.71, and that we rework that. As I said, my concerns are that we are being very restrictive to everybody.
Is there a second to his motion?
Second.
Councilman Brooks, discussion. There's no further discussion. We are voting on the amendment to take out, was it
1871?
1871.
May I interject very quickly? There are other things in this. If you move to approve it, you're also moving to approve the temporary uses chapter and the mixed use developments. I mean, and if you're fine with that, I'm fine with that. They're pretty minor things, but I just want to make sure you know.
Okay, so removal of 18.71 out of ordinance 1095. Any other further discussion on that amendment? We're voting on this amendment. A yes vote would be agreeing with Councilmember Hess and taking out that 18.7. Does council understand? We'll go down the row, or actually, let's just do a roll. Let's just do a audible and see if we can get it. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed say nay.
Nay.
So we have these four, correct? So the amendment does pass 4-2. So the motion that is on table is to pass ordinance number 1095 minus the 18.71. Okay, that motion's still on the table. Councilmember Brooks, did you have any further discussion? Is there any further discussion on this? Is everyone clear on what we're voting on? Okay, it's been motioned second. Let's do a roll call vote. Councilmember Richardson.
It's confusing a little bit here.
Okay. So you're voting on ordinance 1095. A yes vote would be passage of ordinance number 1095 minus the 18.7 that was amended out.
That just there.
Correct.
Okay.
Councilor Richardson, how do you vote? Yes or no?
Yes.
Okay. Councilmember Crossman.
Yes.
Councilmember Smith.
Removing what we just voted on. Yes.
This is on the actual ordinance now. We already approved the amendment. We are voting on the actual motion.
Yes.
Councilmember Hess.
Yes.
Councilmember Brooks.
Yes.
Councilmember Kaminsky. All right, passes unanimously minus the 18.71. Thank you, Gary. Thank you, staff. Thank you, council. All right, we got a few more, so let's keep it going. All right, item E, ordinance number 1096. This is rezoned for parcels 2172412020 and 2172120100 from commercial C1 to moderate density residential R6. Gary, is this you again?
Yes, it is, sir. Okay, thank you. Council, I believe that you have seen this before. This thing's been around. I don't know why I've been told the history, but it's so long, I can't remember it all. But it has gone through the planning commission and had a hearing and has had a recommendation of approval. The motion is to, again, rezone from a commercial zoning district to moderate density residential, which is the R6 zone. The request is from Mr. Derek Edwards for these two parcels. They total approximately 19.3 acres located at 9410 Mountain View and Killian Road, just about a parcel off of Yelm Highway there, or and they're currently vacant. They have city water, sewer, and other utilities. They are adjacent to properties that are zone moderate density residential. The property to the south is zone C1 and high density residential. So with respect to the logical boundaries we like to see when we annex property, they comply with that. There's numerous items which I'm not going to go through because they're in your staff report from the comp plan that the proposal will be consistent with. And so, as I said, the planning commission has recommended approval. It does help facilitate housing construction, which the city does need. And that's one of the reasons I think that the planning commission did recommend approval. And I guess I'll just leave it at that and I'll entertain questions.
Starting with Councilmember Heston Richardson.
In reference to this, correct me if I'm wrong, with commercial, we can go anywhere from 20 to 80% residential and flip it to 20 to 80% commercial, correct?
It's just now on the code changes that you guys approved. That's correct.
So R6 is 6 residents per acre. And if they were to do that, keep it as commercial, we have the capability of actually getting more apartments or townhouses or something like that.
Yeah, you get more density. I believe it's 16 to 32 units per acre is the range.
Okay. Thank you.
Councilmember Richardson.
Does this help influence the growth management plan?
Well, indirectly, I guess, from the standpoint that coming out of the growth management plan, there are a lot of housing initiatives, like housing action plans, and focused at trying to meet future housing needs, like in addition to just low income housing that we need to build, just market rate housing we're not keeping up with. So the more you can facilitate building housing in general, that indirectly supports the Growth Management Act. Yeah.
Councilmember Crossman.
Anybody in the audience here to represent this property? By chance? No.
Mr. Edwards is at the Planning Commission, but.
And this has been at the Planning Commission meeting, and this has been the Public Services meeting as well. Councilmember Kaminsky.
Was this the same owner that owns the property that fronts Yelm Avenue right at that location?
Yes.
I'd like to move to approve ordinance 1096 to rezone the parcels located at 9410 Mountain View Road and Killian from commercial C1 to moderate density R6.
Any further discussion? Councilmember Hess? Oh, I'm sorry. Is there a second to the motion? Excuse me.
I'll second.
Second by Councilmember Smith. Is there any further discussion? Councilmember Hess.
For my fellow council members, I don't think we should do this. And here's the reason why. We are slowly giving up commercial and retail space. Every time we allow a parcel to go from commercial to residential, we give up retail and commercial space. As you heard when I asked the question, the reason why they want to go from commercial to moderate density is so that they can bring in more housing, more living space. But if they keep it as commercial, they can do 20% retail, 80% of it can be made into residential. The residential can be townhomes, can be apartments, can be whatever they want. As he said, it's probably even capable of getting more housing available in there. So I don't see, to me, there is no reason to change this. We made it possible to be able to put residential in there, just not single family homes, and still have commercial and retail space. And so I would like you to please have that in consideration when you look at your vote for this.
Is there any other further discussion? Councilor Crossman?
I'm thinking how to facilitate the words, because that's what I was hoping somebody's here to answer those questions that Councilmember has brought up, because I'm on the fence with this, and yeah, it'd be nice to table it later. I just don't remember how to do that properly.
Well, staff, is there anything else you'd like to add in behalf of what was said on the planning commission as far as the owner support or not support?
Well, Mr. Edwards was just there. He didn't really need to provide any input. I think that he'd be more than happy to come to the council and to talk about whatever the constraints may be.
Edwards online with his hand.
Oh, it looks like, well, I have him speak right now. Please. Mr. Edward, we have we're getting you on there.
Upgrade him. I wonder if we can upgrade this one. That's this side.
Oh, we have you, Derek.
Hello, everybody.
There we go. Okay.
There we go. Thank you. Yeah, so I was able to hear your conversation there, and I was following along. We've owned this property for almost 15 years now, and during that time have had zero interest from a commercial standpoint. We've talked to multiple apartment developers, and one of the challenges is the parcel is so large that even at an R16 zoning at nearly 20 acres, it would require over a 300 unit development. The city code requires development all at once. When you do a project with the commercial also, doing the 20% commercial would be a 4-acre project, which is almost equivalent to the size of the project that my father did across the street at the Eagle Medical Plaza. That project he did over 10 years ago and still has lots on it where the commercial has not been built out. So really the option here is the interest from the developer community and in Yelm is in the standard housing under R6. And so if we could get that, we have developers that are interested in proceeding on the project. Without that, it's going to be sitting as a field for quite a while. There just isn't the appetite in the commercial and the large project apartments at that spot. What used to be, it sounds like you made some changes to your zoning. It used to be R32 required, which would be over a 600 unit project with 5-story buildings with elevators and such. And the Yelm rents do not support that level of building cost. So even in doing this, yeah, if it's left as R16 in the commercial stuff, it's going to be empty for a while.
Thank you, Mr. Edwards. I think we do have one question for you, Councilmember Hess.
You state that there's no interest at all in commercial or retail, and yet I keep hearing that we have a need for daycare centers. We have a need for a variety of retail and commercial-like spaces due to small businesses in the area. I'm just curious on when you're talking commercial, are you looking at just national and, those kinds of large ones? Or are we just and ignoring the small businesses that might need a small little place for setting up a daycare center, setting up a fitness facility, setting up, these small little businesses so that they have a place to actually operate out of?
Yeah. So a good example is the 2 vacant lots that my father has essentially directly across the street at Eagle Plaza. Those have remained vacant for nearly 10 years now, fully developed out already with, driveways and all of that type of stuff. Somebody just needs to put a building on them. We're starting to see some interest in those. But again, this is a 20-acre piece of property. So if you were to do a commercial development on it, when we originally bought the property in 2007, we were envisioning, Fred Meyer, Home Depot, that type of stuff. Those build outs just don't happen anymore. You don't see those happening now with internet sales, all of that type of stuff. So the last project of this size at a commercial thing that's happened in Yelm is Walmart. And that's been a while. So, again, I'm not an old guy, but if it's left as commercial, this is probably my grandkids' problem or my kids. But if we want to solve some of the housing stuff and move it to residential, there's developers ready to go.
Thank you, Mr. Edwards.
Thank you.
All right, council, there is a motion on the table. Is there any further discussion? All righty, call for a roll call vote, starting with Joseph. Again, this is for ordinance number 1096 to rezone parcels 21721200200 and 2172120100 from commercial C1 to moderate density residential R6. Councilmember Richardson, how do you vote?
Yes.
Councilmember Crossman?
Yes.
Councilmember Smith?
Yes.
Councilmember Hess?
No.
Councilmember Brooks?
No.
Councilmember Kaminsky?
I was on the fence. I said no.
Yes or no, Councilmember Kaminsky? Yes. Motion carries 4-2. Thank you, council. Thank you, Mr. Edwards. You may go ahead. All right, moving on to item F, ordinance number 1097, annex and rezone parcels number 51540302700, number 21725230200, and number 643035000505.
Thank you, Mayor. Sorry to torture you with parcel numbers. We got into a discussion last time about the addresses of one of the parcels, and this is just one way to make sure we don't get that kind of confusion. So you've seen these proposed annexations before. They've been to the Planning Commission. They actually went to council for council approval to send them to the Boundary Review Board. I will note that we were actually proposing 5 annexations, and that was 4 individual parcels and then 1 annexation that had 2 contiguous parcels. I'm only bringing 3 annexations here tonight, and I'll explain why in a minute. But the ones that I am bringing to you, you can see you can see where the red arrows are pointing. Those are individual parcels. And I will say also that in the future, we're going to do our best not to annex individual parcels because of all the water rights and the people who have been waiting for such a long time to annex. We kind of went a different route than we would normally do. There's so much work involved in annexations. It's not worth it to the city to do 1 parcel at a time. Miriam, the senior planner who did the transmission notice of intent to the Boundary Review Board for 6 parcels, it was a 600 and some page packet. So it's just not worth it. But here we are. So the parcel number 515-403-02700, and I will state the address, 10143 Grove Road Southeast. It's 5-acre parcel. Currently contains a single-family home and various outbuildings. If the council elects to annex it, it will convert, it will automatically be rezoned as well. Right now, everything in our urban growth area is zoned 1 unit per 5 acres. So we have to rezone it when we bring it in to give it an urban zoning. If you do choose to annex it, it will be rezoned to moderate density residential, so the R6. Parcel 21725130200 is 15036 State Route 507. It's 9.71 acres and it's vacant. If you do elect to adopt the ordinance, it will rezone from R1 to 5 to low density residential R4. And then the last one, 64303-500-505, has no address. This is the one we had issue with last time. It's 3.44 acres vacant, and we used to annex it. It will be rezoned to moderate density residential R6. So again, I know you've all seen these a million times. I will say the reason the other 2 annexations aren't coming before you is because the Boundary Review Board is a process where they have a 45-day comment period so that any jurisdiction who feels like it could be affected can ask the Boundary Review Board to hold a hearing. So basically what they do is they call it cert jurisdiction. So the county has done that with 2 of our annexations, not because they're opposed to them, but because they want us to take in a couple more parcels than we're currently proposing to do. And it's kind of an irregular boundary issue. It's certainly nothing that the city has a problem with. I know that we do have an applicant who was hoping to get it annexed immediately, but it looks like it could take another up to another 3 to 4 months for that to happen. Because what happens is, and the Boundary Review Board has this ability to annex as long as it's not more than twice the size of what we're proposing, but they have to hold a hearing and then we have to hold a hearing after that. So here, these 2 are gummed up a little bit.
Those properties that are the county's requesting to add, have those folks been notified? Are they in favor of
just being notified? Now, I do know that at least 2 of the parcels were actually waiting in line to be annexed. So we kind of, you know, we could kind of benefit from that because we don't have to go through this process. But at least one of the parcels I'm not sure about. That's the one off Mansell Road. It's I call it the Glen Shorno annexation. There's a parcel there that we're not positive about.
But in relation to the ordinance number 1097 discussion, Councilor, anybody? Councilor Huss?
I'd like to move that we approve ordinance 1097 to annex and rezone parcels number 51540302700, parcel 21725230200, as depicted in exhibit.
Missed one.
And one last one, 64.
And 64303500505, as depicted in exhibit A.
Is there a second? Second by Councilmember Crossman. Is there any further discussion? We're gonna go ahead and do a audible here. All those in favor say aye. Any opposed say nay. Motion carries. All right.
Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. Councilmember Crossman, did you have something?
Point of privilege.
Please. All right, we'll go ahead and move on to thank you, Gary. We're gonna go ahead and move on to old business, item 7. There's none scheduled. We're gonna go to standing council committee reports. We'll start off with the Public Safety Committee.
No meeting.
All righty. Moving on to the Public Services Committee.
Public Service Committee meeting we had today. We talked about the annexation, which we just completed. We also talked about about the housing action plan that's coming up. June 6th, they're going to present that housing action plan to the City Council during the study session. It needs to be approved by June 30th. It's required to have that adoption done by then. So please be aware of that when we have our meeting in June. We also talked about the stage. Looks like it's going to be a really nice design. Part of that is they're going to be removing the two pavilions that are in the middle of the park. So that'll be part of the work that's done. We were given a heads up that it might run over of approximately $100,000. It's not positive at this time. There's still negotiations that needs to be done. So be aware of that. And the construction will start sometime in September, mid-October, and we should be able to utilize that stage in December for the Christmas in the Park. So hopefully that will work out well. In addition, the basketball courts that the original plan keeps the basketball court there, but we're looking at seeing if we can move the basketball courts to still have them in the park. We talked about the dog park, which we had during the meeting, and as stated, they'll begin in June, and construction will, bidding will begin in June. Construction will hopefully start in July, and if I remember correct, they have 91 days to complete it once construction starts. Also, the Prairie Trail line to the bridge proposal will be done in June, with a bid for July, and it will be finished by the end of this year. And we were also talked about the couplets study. It's been completed. They're looking at it holistically, looking at maybe even adding in a couple of other streets, changing these to one way to assist with our traffic issues, as well as give us some more mobility within the central business district area. Other than that, any questions?
Moving on to the Finance Committee. All right. Mayor, City Minister, staff reports. Want to go first, Todd?
Let me go first.
Please.
Okay, just a couple more things from the Public Services Department. Spring cleanup was very successful. That over 100 citizens bring garbage in. They also picked up over 42 garbage pickups from different residents, and they filled 14 large receptacles. Is that correct? So very good with that. You want to talk about the lights? Or you want to wait?
Wait.
Okay.
Yeah, we don't want to spoil.
We may get some other lights. Good deal on the lights. So anyway, stand by for that. Splash pad. I don't want to steal the mayor's thunder on the splash pad. So are you sure?
Yeah.
Okay, just ongoing, just maintenance, making sure it's all ready to go. I know it's been, you guys have probably seen it running a little bit, been doing well, but they're just making sure everything's finally tuned for the summer season that we already had. So
the only thing I wanted to add was when it ends, which is September 5th. So it'll run all the way through September 5th.
September 5th.
Maybe a little bit longer. We open a little bit sooner.
It'll be 100 degrees on the 6th.
Yeah. K9 day.
We do so normally in September, sorry, Steelers Thunder. September, we close it down during the week because school's back in session, and then we just have it on the weekends through the month of September. And then we close out with a bark at the park, is our Lynn Roy is calling it. So
yeah. Nice. Yeah, they're also doing interviews for administrative assistant, and they're getting some seasonal employee applications coming in. So that's really good.
How many applicants do we have for the executive assistant?
Yeah, I think we're at 40-ish something now, and we got to cut it off because they're still coming in. So
a lot of people wanting to come work for the city of Yelm, which is great.
Yep. From the finance department, they have submitted their yearly or their 2022 finance report to the auditor's office ahead of time. So very exciting about that. In court, they received their state seal plaque that will go behind the judge in the courtroom. That will be put up in the next couple of days. Your group doing that?
She said she might be able to do it. Like, she can do it.
Okay.
So you'll do some construction.
Okay. From the police side of things, their entry-level candidate starts the academy Thursday in Burien, and they're still doing interviews for lateral or entries for the remaining spots. The emergency management executive session is June 5th. If you haven't RSVP'd for that, please do so because they do provide dinner for you for that. So everyone should have received an email on that. From the Parks and Communication Department, everything is gearing up for Prairie Days, full steam ahead for the preparations for that, which will include a street dance, a shop hop, kids fun fest, touch a truck, watermelon eating contest, mush ball tournament, and then of course the parade, which is being organized by the Yelm Chamber of Commerce. That's all I got.
All right. making homelessness committee appointments here. We got a decent amount of applicants. I think there's 6 or 7 or so. Making that, and is that an approval by the council? So I'll go ahead and make the recommendations, the appointments, and then council will have an opportunity to approve or disapprove. Hopefully not, but other than that, let's start. I have an EDC meeting tomorrow. Yeah, let's start off with Council Member Kaminsky.
I have no updates or meetings, but I think a reminder that the farmer's market is opening this coming weekend, isn't it? Sunday or Saturday? Saturday. And it'll be over on McKenzie. Yeah. It's my report.
Thank you. Councilmember Brooks.
Yes, I have been busy as usual. So on 5/10, I was at the Community Connections, which was at the local this month, and there were quite a few new visitors. That was fantastic. Later that day was Learners Without Limits 5K at Yelm City Park, also well attended. The very next day was the Boys and Girls Club Foundation for the Future breakfast, which was an amazing emotional roller coaster to be a part of. I'm so happy that Boys and Girls Club is here in Yelm. It's overwhelmingly amazing. Okay, so then on 5/13, the Rotary Club of Yelm had their 13th annual celebration and invited me as a city councilor, so I attended. And then on 5/17, the Thurston County Chambers 118th annual meeting was another event that I was invited to, and I was disappointed to see I was the only representative from the city of Yelm there that day. So next time I'd like to see more Yelm. And then on 5/19 was the study meeting that I attend monthly, and that was held at the Rainier Senior Center. There were a lot of community events noted, and that was for the cities such as Bucota, Olympia, Rainier, Tenino, Lacey, and then of course, Yelm. And then as a reminder for future events, it's the Community Resource Fair. It's the last Thursday of every month. And that's where they have the usual tablers that involve healthcare, Community Action Council, all those things that our residents need to get by, as well as a shop for free program where there's clothing and shoes, and then bonus lunch is sponsored by Yelm Grocery Outlet. They will be a usual sponsor for lunch every last Thursday of each month. And that's what I've got.
Cool.
Yeah.
Councilor Hess.
Let's see, for Intercity Transit Authority, it's prior to the pandemic, they were in the process of getting ready to add new services. From the last meeting, they reported they are at a little over 90% resource-wise of providing the services that they were providing prior to the pandemic. They're also going to be preparing to add new services as they get more resources. In addition, I talked to them about our various festivals that we have, like the Jazz Fest, Barbecue Fest, things like that, about seeing if we had satellite parking, would they be able to help us out? They stated that they will see what they can do within the legal confines and be able to see what they can do to assist us with that. I also brought up about the Palmintera area, and they are now, the planner is now taking a look at that to see what they can start doing. In addition, one of the things that they're looking at bringing to intercity transit is what they call on-demand rides, whether it's through Uber, Lyft, their own little buses, whatever it might be. They're looking at trying to see how that will look. And so that'll be something very interesting to see happen, because it might be very beneficial for those in Yelm, more so than expanding the bus service itself for 53 passenger bus. Regional Housing Commission, lots going there. They are slowly getting everything put together for, and I don't want to say it incorrectly, but something similar to a housing authority, a group that is going to take care of the housing issues. And because of what's going on up in King County, I'm going to be kind of like looking over reviewing some of the stuff that's been going on, to make sure we don't all of a sudden fall into the trap that King County's in right now, that situation. In addition, we have the Regional Housing Commission meeting tomorrow. Yeah, tomorrow. I want to take this opportunity for two things to say. One is, as you heard in reference to my concern of changing commercial to residential, this is all for all residents that happen to be listening. If you have a small business, if you have the need of retail space, we need you to start speaking up. Because for whatever reason, developers are not hearing that there is a need for daycare centers, for any of those kinds of businesses. And I know we have lots of small business owners in Yelm or people who want to open up a business. If you don't get your voice heard, you will see, I believe, and I will do everything I can to try to slow it down, but you'll see more commercial turn into residential. We've already lost industrial to residential, and light industrial agriculture. That was a few years ago. And slowly but surely, we're losing more and more commercial. And that is because no developer believes there's a need for small businesses here in Yelm. So I put a call out to the residents and small business owners. Please get your voices heard. Lastly, this weekend is Memorial Day weekend. I would like to invite all of Yelm to please consider this weekend the meaning of it and the purpose of it. The meaning of it is when we sit down and quietly remember those who lost their lives in service of this country. I know of at least 3 Gold Star family members here in Yelm. I also know that every veteran in Yelm probably knows somebody who has passed away in the service. So please take some time before you start going for your mattress sales, your barbecues and everything. Take a few minutes and remember that. Remember, this is the time to not thank a veteran, but just to remember those who we've lost. In addition, on Monday at sunrise, dawn, they will be lowering the flag in the city park to half mast. And then they will raise it back to full mast at noon. That is one event. There is another event at the Yelm Cemetery put on by the veteran organizations. If you can make it to one of those 2 events, that would be wonderful. We are a military community. We proudly state we are a military supporting community. Let's show our support and let's see what we can do to make these events a little bit bigger than what they have been in the past. And thank you for your time, Mayor.
Thank you, Councilmember Smith, or Hess. Councilmember Smith.
And to report, I do want to say though, you haven't driven by Public Works and the new little flower bed. It's gorgeous. I mean, seriously, it's beautiful. So that's all.
Councilmember Crossman. What else besides flowers have you noticed?
I feel like, actually makes me feel like I need to keep a journal. Yeah, no, I see that. It's like, I don't do that. So May 20th, the Yelm Spring cleanup. We went around, did our trash pickup, same as we did last year. Not as much trash this year. That was good to see. Most interesting thing we found this year was 2 sets of bicycle handlebars, and that's it. Bicycle handlebars. I was like, why is it just 2 handlebars in the bushes and nothing else? I don't know. People are weird. Yeah, that's it. Our question though, are applications still coming in for a council position, or they're
still trickling in?
They're trickling in
today. All right, Councilor Richardson.
Well, I attended the Yelm Senior Center breakfast on Saturday, which is the 2nd Saturday of every month, and spoke to Santa Claus. And I'm still on the nice list, just barely. That's good.
Good. All right. Is there anything else good for the order or for the good of the order?
Move to adjourn.
Is there a second? Second. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed say nay. Meeting adjourned.